I still remember the way the crystal chandeliers glimmered that night, scattering light across the table like everything beneath them was perfect. My grandfather lifted his glass, voice rich with pride. "I'm glad you're enjoying the college fund we set up for you," he said. My fork stopped midair. "What fund?" The laughter around the table died instantly, replaced by a silence that hummed like static. My father coughed into his napkin, spilling wine down his wrist. My mother went pale. Then my little cousin whispered, "Wait, you didn't know?" That was Thanksgiving, the night a careless toast burned through every lie my family had built. Grandfather's home always looked like it belonged in a magazine. Long driveway lined with gold lights, tall windows glowing against the cold. But that night, it felt less like coming home and more like walking into a museum where I didn't belong. I'd spent half an hour in my car rehearsing a smile, smoothing down the wrinkles in my thrift store dress. I just wanted to make it through one dinner without feeling like an intruder in my own family. Inside, cinnamon and roasted sugar wrapped the air. Grandma rushed over, voice warm and trembling, still calling me darling the way she did when I was little. She was the only real softness left in that house. Grandpa, Daniel, sat at the head of the table, silver hair glowing under the chandelier, the kind of man who filled a room without needing to speak. "There's my Hazel," he said when he saw me. For a moment, that single word felt like safety. Then my parents arrived, polished and loud, laughter too perfect to be real. Dad clapped me on the shoulder like he was greeting a distant acquaintance. Mom kissed the air beside my cheek. "Try to relax, sweetheart," she murmured, though her smile shook. Ethan, my brother, didn't even glance up from his phone. We hadn't spoken in months. Dinner looked like a feast from a painting, turkey gleaming under gold light, mashed potatoes so buttery they shone. I sat between Grandma and Aunt Julie, who started her usual inquisition about school, work, and dating. I answered politely, pretending not to feel the eyes measuring me. For a while, the illusion of family held. Grandpa laughed deep and proud at the far end of the table, and I wanted to believe that maybe this year would be different, that warmth might last longer than dessert. But peace in this house always came before the storm. When Grandpa set his glass down and said those words, "Glad you're enjoying the college fund," the air changed. I blinked. "What fund?" I asked again, my voice small but sharp enough to split the room. Dad's chair scraped back. Mom's fork clattered. Even the chandelier light seemed to dim. Grandpa frowned. "The fund we started when you were born," he said slowly. "Your parents have been managing it all these years." My gaze shifted to them. Dad's jaw clenched, color climbing his neck. Mom wouldn't lift her eyes from her plate. "You've been managing it?" I repeated. "Because I've been living off $5 coffee shifts and instant noodles, and somehow that fund never found me." Mom's voice came out thin. "Hazel, please. We used it for the house, for Ethan's braces, for emergencies. You were doing fine." "Fine." I laughed once, brittle. "You call starving through finals and skipping rent fine?" Grandpa's face hardened. The warmth drained from his eyes. "That money was never yours to touch," he said to them, his voice low and controlled. "It was for Hazel." Dad's tone snapped from guilt to anger. "Maybe if you hadn't put it in our names." "Enough," Grandpa barked. His words cut like shattered glass. "We trusted you." The silence that followed pressed on my chest until I could barely breathe. My grandmother's eyes glistened. My cousins stared at their plates. I pushed my chair back, the scrape echoing across the marble floor. "You let me drown," I said quietly. "And you watched." Mom reached for my hand. I pulled away. "Don't," I said. "You don't get to fix this with tears." I walked out before anyone could stop me. In the hallway, my reflection in a gold-framed mirror looked like someone I barely knew, angry awake. Outside, the air was colder than I remembered. The mansion behind me glowed like nothing had happened. I drove home in silence, hands trembling on the wheel. When I reached my apartment, I sat on the bed, dress still smelling like roses and smoke. Grandpa's voice echoed in my head. "The fund we set up for you." And my father's, "We meant to replace it." I opened my laptop. After an hour of dead ends and calls, a quiet voice on the phone confirmed it. Yes, there was an account in my name, but the balance was zero. Withdrawals had been made regularly, signed by John and Linda Anderson, my parents. That night, I sat in the dark. No crying, just silence thick enough to choke on. The next morning, I walked into the campus legal aid office with a folder of papers: pay stubs, loans, scholarships. The woman behind the desk read every page before looking up. If they use the fund for themselves, she said, that's misappropriation. A word that sounded cold, but real. I went home and started gathering proof. Every bill, every record. I laid them out on the floor until the carpet disappeared beneath them. It looked like my entire life spread in evidence. Every scar, every hour I'd fought alone. And I knew I wasn't powerless anymore. When Christmas came, Grandpa called. You should be here, he said. You deserve to be. So I went, but not as the quiet daughter anymore. The same house greeted me with its perfect warmth. My parents were there, dressed like nothing had ever happened. Mom smiled too wide. Dad nodded stiffly. I hung my coat and joined the table, the same china, the same silver, but the air colder than ever. Halfway through dinner, Dad tapped his glass. I just want to say that family means everything, he began. I could almost hear the rehearsed lines behind his teeth. I let him finish, then reached for the folder beside me and placed it on the table. The sound it made silenced the room. Since Thanksgiving, I said, I've been asking one question: what fund? I slid the folder toward the center. Now I know. Every withdrawal, every signature, it's all here. You didn't use it for me. You used it for yourselves. Mom's lip trembled. Hazel, not tonight. Tonight's perfect, I said, while you sit in comfort built from money meant for my future. Dad's face darkened. We did what we had to do. No, I said. You did what was easy. Grandpa opened the folder slowly, eyes scanning the pages. When he looked up, his voice was ice. You stole from your daughter, he said. From your own blood. Mom broke down, sobbing. We never meant. You drained her future, he snapped, and lied to me about it for years. I spoke quietly. I've already filed a report. The bank's investigating. The color drained from Dad's face. You're suing your own parents. I'm holding thieves accountable, I said. There's a difference. Grandpa rose from his chair, walked around the table, and placed a hand on my shoulder. You're not alone in this, he said softly. Dad's voice cracked. You're taking her side? There's only one side here, Grandpa said. The truth. The room went still. I gathered my folder, slid it into my bag, and stood. Mom called after me, voice breaking. Please, Hazel, we can fix this. I turned once. You can't fix something you never meant to keep whole. Outside, snow was falling thick and silent. Each step away from that house felt lighter. A week later, an envelope arrived, official seal, my name in print. The bank had begun its investigation. Every forged signature, every withdrawal under review. Justice didn't feel like triumph. It felt like finally breathing. Days after that, Grandpa called again. There's something waiting for you at the bank, he said. Inside an envelope, a note in his handwriting. For your start, not your survival. Alongside it, a cashier's check for $20,000. I paid my student loans that afternoon. Watched the number shrink on the screen. It wasn't joy, it was reclaiming time. I opened a new account under my name only. Mine. Months later, I graduated under a pale sky. Grandma and Grandpa were there, clapping from the crowd. My parents weren't. I didn't need them to be. I crossed that stage lighter, free of their shame, carrying only my name and the quiet peace that comes after the storm. They say family is forever, but forever doesn't mean silence. Sometimes love looks like walking away. Because family isn't the ones who share your blood. It's the ones who never steal your future.